hope that the leaker, who is extremely likely to be found.
An investigation launched into who leaked a draft opinion that suggests the Supreme Court could overturn Roe v. Wade.
Republicans are spending all their focus on the leak because they don't want to focus on Roe v. Wade.
Now, states across the U.S. are racing to get ahead of the court's final decision, what this means for Colorado's abortion protections. It's going to cost more to borrow money for a car or a house. The Fed is set to raise interest rates for a second time this year. And the cost of rent is forcing a food bank in the metro to move, leaving families without access to healthy food.
You know, our needs are really simple, and I think we provide a really valuable service.
The Broncos are going across the pond.
It's electric. That's really, really special. It feels like international Super Bowl.
They're heading back to London for the first time in more than a decade. Happening now, you're looking at the steps of the Supreme Court. Today, fallout continues over the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned. Thanks so much for joining us here for Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Jason Grenauer. The future of that law is up in the air because a leaked Supreme Court draft decision suggests it will be struck down. Alex Perche reports on how it could impact November's election.
From the steps of the highest court in the country to the U.S. heartland, news of the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion dated February 10th reverberating across the nation. The 67-page draft opinion was written by Justice Samuel Alito. Its authenticity was confirmed by the court and appears to reach a clear conclusion. Roe v. Wade must be overruled, and that 1973 ruling was egregiously wrong from the start. Chief Justice Roberts, who confirmed the authenticity of the leaked draft first published by Politico, insists it's just a first draft and not a final opinion of the justices. President Biden is describing this as a radical decision, and Vice President Kamala Harris saying this.
How dare they tell a woman what she can do and cannot do with her own body?
But today, states across the country aren't waiting for the final word from the Supreme Court. They're racing to get ahead of it. In Oklahoma, abortion is now banned as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy. The bill signed overnight by the governor, effective immediately. One woman says she was told by one state clinic that she has to drive to Kansas to get an appointment.
She's like, you know what, we can't do it here, but I can help you find a different facility. It's going to be in a different state.
Democrats now scrambling to offset the restrictive anti-abortion laws already passed. Connecticut's governor promising to sign a bill to safeguard abortions and protect providers from out-of-state lawsuits. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, at least 26 states will likely ban or severely restrict access to abortions. The president now using his platform to push candidates ahead of the midterm elections who support abortion rights. Biden saying if the court does overturn Roe and this issue goes to the states, it will fall on the nation's elected officials at all levels of government to protect a woman's right to choose. President Biden is also warning that this decision could extend far beyond abortion into other freedoms as well. And with primary season officially underway, Indiana and Ohio happening yesterday, this is messaging that you're going to hear well into November. Alex Perche, ABC News, Washington.
Chief Justice John Roberts has called for an investigation into who leaked that draft opinion. The investigation will be led by the Marshal of the Court, who's in charge of the Supreme Court's police department. If there's evidence of a crime, the case could be sent to the Department of Justice for prosecution. Now, one theory is that whoever leaked it might be trying to lock in a 5-justice conservative majority opinion and use the publicity to deter a justice from changing their vote. If the leaker was on the more liberal side of the court, the theory is the outrage over the decision would make people speak out against the issue, trying to get protections passed through Congress, as well as pushing for more pro-choice candidates in the upcoming midterms.
There's potential to not only mobilize core Democratic voters, but to reach beyond them and try to mobilize the middle area voters, because a lot of them don't want to see abortion made illegal.
Now, there are about 50 people who would have had access to that document, the 9 justices and people working within their chambers. Now, with or without Roe v. Wade, Colorado allows abortions. That right was put into law this legislative session, but that doesn't mean the law is permanent. It's a statutory change, meaning lawmakers or voters can undo it with a simple majority vote. There's an effort now to create a ballot question that would put the law into Colorado's constitution. The ballot question is in the works for 2024. Anti-abortion groups are also working on a measure. It would ban abortions at all stages of pregnancy, except in some rare cases, like to save the mother's life. Supporters are in the process of collecting signatures to get it on the ballot as well. We will monitor this story as it develops, and we will update you both on air on our website, thedenverchannel.com, as well as on the Denver 7 mobile app. Some breaking news now from Denver. One person is dead after a car crashed into the South Platte River. This is a picture near the scene by Florida and Platte River Drive. Police have not said what caused the car to go into the river there. They're asking anyone who might have seen what happened to call them right away. Colorado Congressman Jason Crow is back in the U.S. after joining Democratic leaders on a trip to Ukraine and Poland. Crow says the U.S. needs to do everything it can to help Ukraine defeat Russian troops, but he does not support sending U.S. forces into Ukraine.
I'm not somebody who wants to go to war. I'm somebody who wants to avoid it at all costs. But I'm also somebody that understands that the world is a dangerous place. And if we don't support people who are have vested interests, that we're at greater risk.
Crow says the U.S. will play a role in helping the humanitarian crisis there. He says 3 million refugees have fled to Poland since the war started, so Poland will need support for things like medical treatments and education for refugees. Americans will likely have to pay more for big ticket items like a car or a home. That's because the Fed is set to raise interest rates to manage inflation and avoid a recession. Now, the Fed is set to raise the short-term interest rate by 0.5%. That's double the usual amount, and it's the sharpest increase in more than 20 years. The Fed raised interest rates by 0.25% in March, which was the first hike since 2018. The Fed says 2 more hikes could happen this summer. It's not getting any cheaper to buy a house in Colorado, but people looking for a home, they should have more options moving forward. Now, the Denver Metro Association of Realtors says the average closing price in the Metro last month is close to $730,000. That's up 3.5% from March. The Metro had more than 3,200 listings, though. That's up more than 40% from March.
So by seeing it go up over 1,000 properties, it's really showing that the market is starting to normalize a little bit and head towards a pace that honestly is probably more healthy for both buyers and sellers.
Now, realtors say since buyers have more options, sellers may have to set a good price for their home or potentially lower their listing price. Vail is moving forward on a plan to condemn a property owned by Vail Resorts, saying the area is near a bighorn sheep habitat. The town council voted 4-3 on that proposal. The ski resort wanted to use the property as an affordable housing complex for its employees. Vail's mayor says the town council could continue to talk with Vail Resorts about building a housing development somewhere else. A food bank in Aurora is feeling the harsh realities of Colorado's housing market. Food Connect Colorado is being forced to move locations because of rising rent. As Denver 7's Veronica Acosta reports, that means that some people will no longer have access to the bank's food.
Food Connect Colorado has helped hundreds of rural families during the pandemic. When it was just a drive-up service in a park in 2020, volunteers were giving out 144 boxes of food. That was happening every Thursday. Then when the pantry moved to a small warehouse space, it was serving 48 households a week. But now that focus has shifted a bit because they're searching for a brand new home. The food pantry gives away rescued food that would otherwise end up in a landfill. It's completely free for anyone who wants it. Food Connect Colorado had been distributing food out of its small warehouse space since May of 2021. At the time, the pantry was being charged about $1,800 in rent. When the lease was up, it was facing a rent hike. They'd have to pay nearly $2,300 in rent, which is something they just couldn't afford. So for months now, the president of the pantry says she's been searching for a new place that not only satisfies all their needs, but also fits everyone inside that they need to have. It wasn't easy having to shut down, even if it is just temporary.
Most of our shoppers were regulars. Our rule was 2 visits a month, and just about everybody came there 2 visits a month. And some of them were just like, what? They couldn't get it. They were very upset. What we're doing is not a expensive venture. We don't need a luxury space in a luxury, part of town or anything like that. We just need about 2,000 square feet with a big door and air conditioning and parking. That doesn't seem to be much to ask.
Food Connect Colorado closed its doors just this past Friday. It was able to give all of its leftover food to a different pantry in town. Juan says right now she just wants to get into a new space that she can afford to get that food distribution going again. In studio, I'm Veronica Acosta, number 7.
Let's talk sports now and talk about a Game 1 statement. The Avalanche came out firing in their first game of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs last night. 4 goals in the first 10 minutes of the first period set things up for a dominant 7-2 win in Game 1. Game 2 is tomorrow night. And check out this well-dressed Avalanche fan. Nuggets star Nikola Jokic was in the building last night. Joker rocking an Avs jersey that needs just slightly longer sleeves. Well, Broncos country, pack your bags for a pretty long trip this season. The Broncos, they're heading to London this fall for Week 8. They will play the Jaguars at Wembley Stadium in London on October 30th. The NFL made the official announcement this morning. Quarterback Russell Wilson chatted with the NFL Network this morning. He played in London in 2018 with the Seahawks.
What I remember is just the bonding and the part that you travel all the way over there and you work throughout the week, and just those moments like that you forever cherish. And then obviously the celebration afterwards when you're walking in and you're saying hey to everybody and everything else, and you won the game, and you get to fly back home as a winner.
Now, this is the first time the Broncos will play in London since 2010. The game will be on. It will be on early. It's at 7:30 a.m. will be televised on ESPN+. The Broncos' full schedule will be released next Thursday. Well, still ahead, a Colorado 911 dispatcher is being recognized for staying calm and helping soon-to-be parents during a very stressful situation. Plus, take your dog for a walk and help other animals in need. We have the details about this year's Furry Scurry. That's next.